which is thought to be the breed responsible for Ellie's death yesterday. Along with the Japanese Tosa, that's also banned, the Dogo Argentino and Fila Brasileiro. So those are the 4 banned dogs at the moment. But is the Dangerous Dogs Act enough to protect us from vicious breeds? Joining me now, Ryan O'Meara. He's the editor of K9 magazine. He's got slightly big, 11 months old Rottweiler, Mia, with him this morning. And Mia has just hit her head on the table, and we're very sorry about that, my darling. It's an early start to the day. Tell me, Ryan, this incident, would you like to see a change in the law?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Dangerous Dogs Act, which, I mean, after all, is quite an old piece of legislation, and it's perfectly fine. It's all right if owners understand it. It's no good having legislation for dogs because they can't read. So if owners don't know what's contained in the Dangerous Dogs Act, and I think you'll find if you were to ask 100 dog owners today, do you know what's actually in the Dangerous Dogs Act? Do you know who it applies to? You'll find very often that they'll say, well, actually, no, because the Dangerous Dogs Act applies to every single dog of every type of breed. OK.
So the onus is on the dog owner, or whoever's in charge of the dog, to look after it in a responsible manner. Would licensing make a difference to that?
Well, I think so. I think at the moment you've got ignorance is an excuse in many cases. Well, it's being used as an excuse. If I drive down the motorway and I think my brakes are a little bit dodgy, and I end up crashing into somebody, the police will say, well, you knew this was your responsibility, and just because you're not a mechanic doesn't excuse you from what's happened. If you own a dog above a certain weight or a certain size, it is capable, whether it's the nicest, most placid dog in the world, it's capable of inflicting serious, if not fatal, injuries.
And let's be clear about this. We're not talking about this case in St Helens and other cases as well. There's been some terrible tragedies. I mean, it just beggars belief that people can have a dog sometimes in a situation where this sort of threat could be present. But that, you know, that aside, you know, these dogs are strong, they're powerful, they're intimidating, they instill fear in other people, and they are a badge of honour for some people at the moment, aren't they?
This is part of the problem, in that some breeds have developed a reputation. This is a case in point. It's one of the most popular dog breeds in this country, and by and large, they're all fine. Unfortunately, they can be an attractive proposition for the exact type of person who shouldn't own a dog. And therefore, if there was a dog ownership suitability test, hopefully we could wheedle out the sort of person who simply shouldn't own a dog.
But who's going to enforce that? I mean, the police are busy, it's all about paperwork. You know, is this the job of the RSPCA, or who are already fully stretched? So we talk about legislation, but do you actually foresee a situation where, you know, we could actually implement it?
Well, I do. I think if you drive it from the people who supply dogs, breeders and welfare centres, who would willingly help if you could screen out the sort of people who are not suitable to own a dog, if you can ensure that they only ever supply dogs to people who can say, look, I really know what I'm talking about, I've sat a test, I understand my responsibilities. If you can make sure that the only people supplying dogs are supplying to the right people, I think you can actually drive this from the dog industry itself.
What a campaign that is, because it's all going to go underground, isn't it? The trouble is with licensing...
Why can't you just ban them all together?
Well, I think this case in St Helens is a good one in that the pit bull is banned. So in theory, it can't have happened.
We don't know whether this is a pit bull or not.
Pit bull type. Well, the pit bull type can be seized by the police. So this is where you've got a grey area.
Expand the banning, because I mean, I'm sure you're a dog owner. Wouldn't you be prepared to give up owning your lovely dog if it meant that the other dogs weren't in this position?
Honestly, if I thought banning breeds worked, I'd give you my dog now if I thought it would prevent somebody being attacked. Unfortunately, it won't, in that once you've got a dog... I mean, the lady who had the face transplant last year, that was a Labrador. You know, the cuddly...
But there are more Labradors, aren't there? There are so many more Labradors than these other breeds as
well.
I mean,
Absolutely.
they are the big family dogs, so the numbers are slightly skewed against it.
Well, yeah, but the Labrador's sort of got the reputation of friendliness and cuddliness, and yet because it is of a certain size, it can inflict really serious injuries. And I think that what we need to do is make sure that owners are absolutely held accountable.
And educated in the first place.
Yeah, of course.
OK.
Of course.
Ryan, it's good talking to you this morning, and thanks for bringing Mia in, who's been an absolute... a little charm in here this morning. What do you reckon about this? You've let us know quite a few things this morning. You're all calling for dog licensing and education of owners, of course. Should regulations on keeping dogs be tightened? Can they be?
Well, Ryan O'Meara is editor of the magazine K9 and a former professional dog trainer. He joins me live from Wassop in Nottinghamshire with his pet dog, I'm assuming, who's called Mia. And what kind of breed is she?
Mia is a Rottweiler.
So are they inherently dangerous as a breed?
no dog or breed is inherently dangerous. Are they capable of causing a person injuries? Yes, as is any dog of a certain size and weight. Are they inherently dangerous or inherently aggressive? Absolutely not.
So why do we not hear of spaniels, of Labradors, of other breeds of dog making this a kind of attack? It always seems to be a certain type of dog, a dog often bred to be aggressive, often bred perhaps to be a guard dog or a fighting dog.
Well, it's a valid point that you raise, but in actual fact, recorded statistics of people admitted to hospitals with dog bites would indicate that spaniels admit more people to hospital with dog bite. Now, the problem is, of course,
there are
when
more
you take
spaniels
a
and there are more spaniels as pets. What we don't often hear of, and in fact I can't ever remember reporting an incident of, is a dog like a spaniel actually killing somebody.
No, I mean, there are cases. There was a case in France of a dog as small as a Pomeranian killing a baby. And the lady that had the world's first face transplant was a Labrador. Now, the circumstances that led up to that was not so much an attack. I think what we have to do, if we really want to solve this problem, is stop this focusing on a particular breed. Because if we were to say, let's draw a big line through Rottweilers today, do we honestly think that that means there will be no dog attacks on people for years to come? It will become German Shepherds, or it become Japanese Akitas, or Belgian Shepherds. It's very much the case that if you own a Rottweiler, you have to be aware that if your dog either plays too hard or is aggressive, that the chances of injury or even death is higher than if you owned a Chihuahua. Now, that means you should take responsibility. I own a Rottweiler, and at Christmas time, I made arrangements that my dog could not come into contact with any children. Now, that's not because my dog's dangerous. She's actually very, very friendly. But I think it's my responsibility as a dog owner, a generic dog owner, I also own a Labrador, to take the action that I don't want my dog ever to be in a position where she could come into contact with a child or a baby and an accident could happen. It's my view that the more we say, let's ban a breed, this one or that one, the more we cloud the issue. And that issue is that it's dog owners' responsibility to ensure that their dogs are well behaved and the public is protected.
Mr. O'Mara, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Well, joining us now in the studio is Dr. Roger Monkford, an animal behaviour expert. Thank you very much for coming in. First of all, this issue which a lot of people pick on, particular dogs, particular breeds, are some more inclined, because of the way that they've been bred, perhaps as fighting dogs, to attack people and cause this kind of incident?
No, previous correspondents like Ryan and Chris Lawrence were absolutely right in saying that...
Story, a woman from Dublin who lost her dog has been reunited with the pooch after it turned up in London. Laura Cleary and Holly, a terrier poodle cross, were brought back together this morning. The dog was taken from her home last April, but the pet was eventually tracked down thanks to her microchip implant. Let's speak to Ryan O'Mara, who's the editor of K9 magazine. Thanks for joining us on Afternoon Live. How could this have happened, do you think?
Well, unfortunately, dog theft is quite a growing crime, and it's one that owners aren't necessarily well aware of. I think there's a myth amongst dog owners that the only dogs that thieves are interested in taking are pedigree dogs. Well, it's not the case at all. Thieves are interested in taking any dog, because if they can make a quick turnaround of £50 or £100, then that's £50 or £100 more than they didn't have in the morning. And even bigger still, if they can sell the dog back to the original owner, the potential rewards are massive. So dog theft, unfortunately, is it's a growing crime.
Opportunistic? Is that what it is, or are they stolen to order on occasion?
I wouldn't necessarily say they were stolen to order. That does happen, but it's rare. It is opportunistic, so it's something that dog owners need to be aware of. Anybody that owns a dog, and I'm obviously a dog owner, we protect our dogs almost with our lives, and yet it never ceases to amaze me that the risks that some people put them at, such as tying them up outside of shops or leaving them in their cars when they go away, and I think it needs, or even having an insecure garden. The amount of people who don't know that their garden's insecure until their dog shows them it's insecure is amazing. So it helps to be aware that there are people out there now who see dogs as an opportunity to make some quick money.
So what do you do to protect your dog?
Well, firstly, be aware that this is happening. Be aware that criminals are quite a cute and savvy bunch, and they know that this is a crime that they can commit with very little comeback on them. So be aware that you should protect your dog as much as you protect anything else that's valuable. Secondly, microchip your dog, because that at least gives people the opportunity to get your dog back to you. So microchip or tattoo. And I think most importantly, the thing to do is always ensure you've got a secure garden, always ensure that you're on the lookout for anybody that maybe is looking at your dog as if it was something they could make some money off, and just be fully aware that it doesn't matter whether you've got a pedigree dog or not. People will steal dogs. If you find a dog, report it to the dog wardens. And I think overall, just be aware that we should protect our dogs as much as we can.
OK, Mr O'Mara, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Sky News. Back in just a moment with all today's top stories.
After a Rottweiler bit her arm as she rollerbladed in a park. And the following month, 5-month-old Katie Lee Deacon died after being attacked by 2 Rottweilers at a pub in Leicester. Well, joining us now is Ryan O'Mara from K9 magazine, a specialist dog magazine. Ryan O'Mara, very good evening to you. We've talked to you before after incidents like the Katie Lee death earlier last year. Now, what about this latest one? Again, it raises questions about the behaviour and the keeping of dogs like this, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's another tragedy, and to think we're in 2007 and a young person's not going to get to grow up as a result of a dog attack, it's almost ludicrous. I mean, it's not. We don't live in sort of South Africa where we have wild animals, and yet people are dying as a result of dog attacks. And I think what we need to look at is what causes these attacks and how to educate dog owners enough to know what's responsible dog ownership and what is frankly a neglect of care.
So you think it's entirely down to the owners and not the breed of dog, although the breed of dog has certainly been mentioned in new legislation in the last decade or so?
Well, I think if this is, as is suspected, a pit bull type of dog, and does fall under the Dangerous Dogs Act, I think what it does is it proves that legislating against a breed doesn't work, because if there were no pit bulls, if there were no Rottweilers or Mastiffs, any dog above a certain size and weight is capable of inflicting very serious, if not fatal, injuries on a person, and therefore it's kind of irrelevant what the actual breed is. I think owners who own dogs of a certain size need to be fully aware of what their dog is capable of doing, certainly if left alone, certainly if fireworks are in the equation, and certainly when you bring children into the situation, which adds a new level of unpredictability.
Ryan O'Mara, we've had quite a lot of email posts, as you can imagine, today, so if you can bear with us, I'll just read out a couple of views from our viewers and then maybe have your thoughts on it. Most of those condemn people who choose to have these sort of dogs. For example, John Henderson from Manchester says most of these animals keep their owners and not the other way round. Why would anyone want to keep a Rottweiler, pit bull or lurcher is beyond me. Some of these beasts are bigger than their owners, so what chance does a child have? Jan Pyer from Ronda agrees, saying, how deplorable to see yet another young child killed by a vicious dog. Why are people with young children allowed to keep these animals as domestic pets? But Maya emails in to say this. She says, don't blame the owners. Dogs, like animals, are wild with the instinct to kill. So let's bring in Ryan O'Mara again from K9 magazine. Mr. O'Mara, your thoughts there? I mean, some people feel that people have no right to keep dogs of this type if there are children around at all.
Sure. I mean, that view is understandable in these circumstances, but I think what we need to be clear on is that owning a dangerous dog is a crime, and it's a crime where there is no beneficiary. The owners of these type of dogs, and I think we speak by and large, do not want their dogs to attack people. However, it is a dereliction of duty if you own a dog that is capable of inflicting serious, if not fatal, injuries, and you don't know how to train it. And I would say, if you own any dog of any breed, and I don't necessarily want to single any breeds out because each dog is an individual character, if you own a dog of any breed of a certain size, you need to be able to at least control it with your voice and control it physically. If you can't do either, then that's neglectful. And I think when it comes to choice of breeds, we could say, why do people own Ferraris? Is it because they want to drive fast or recklessly or dangerously? It's not true. I own a Rottweiler myself. Think you have a self-perpetuating problem is that very often the dogs with the so-called bad reputation become attractive to the exact type of person who really, frankly, shouldn't be owning that type of dog in the first place. And I think if we were to screen out the people who are owning these type of dogs with a dog ownership test, I think we would actually have more chance of preventing dog attacks than simply legislating against a particular breed.
Ryan O'Mara from K9 Magazine, thank you very much for your views this evening.